How does 2% of the population get their way over the 98% non-Jewish population? It is because they are far more than 2% of the power structure. The three elements of real power in America and the Western world are 1. The mass media, 2. International finance and banking, and 3. Politics. The first two, the owners of the mass media and the owners of the largest international banks, are unelected, responsible only to themselves. But they both have tremendous influence on politics. First, let's look at the media. Here's a quote from the Los Angeles Jewish Times on the huge conglomerates who overwhelmingly control the mass media. Quote, 4 of the largest 5 entertainment giants are now run or owned by Jews. Rupert Murdoch's News Corp is the only Gentile holdout. However, Rupert is as pro-Israel as any Jew, probably more so. That's from Los Angeles Jewish Times, October 29, 1999. In fact, even the 5th media conglomerate, News Corp, has a man of Jewish descent as its CEO. His name is Robert Chernin. Here's the cover of the Jewish magazine Moment. The Jews control Hollywood, so what? Gentiles built the great newspapers of Europe and America, and Gentiles, such as Thomas Edison, even invented the film industry. But now, the media in America has been taken over and occupied just as much as the Zionists occupy the high ground of the West Bank in Palestine.
I just did a Google search to find out who people hate the most. I applied the same mathematical formula. This is the hate formula. And for hate people, I made it so it comes out to hate factor of 1, just for a base to compare everything else with. For Jews, it came out to 90. For Israel, it came out to 122. Americans, 3.7. And then it goes down a list, and even Muslims was only 0.42, even after they were blamed for September 11th. So when you compare Muslims to Jews, Jews are hated 215 times as much as Muslims. Jews are hated 395 times as much as Christians, and Jews are hated 121 times as many as Germans. That's not percentage, that's times as many. So why do people hate Jews so much? Like, what did they do to generate that many search results for that small of amount of people?
When we look at the 2 wars that the United States finds herself in, and on the cusp of at least 2 others, and all of this for the benefit of a certain foreign country sitting on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea, they have been wildly successful at bringing all of this about. And I think one of the main components of this is the fact that very few people really understand the nature of the problem. And I think that your article here basically lays out the problem, which is that when you have people who try to make this claim that they are loyal to America and at the same time loyal to a foreign government, it is a lie.
It is, and it's more than that, Mark. What we need to stand up and say is, not only did they attack the USS Liberty, they did 9/11. Mm-hmm. They did it. I have had long conversations over the past 2 weeks with contacts at the Army War College, at headquarters Marine Corps, and I've made it absolutely clear in both cases that it is 100% certain that 9/11 was a Mossad operation. Period. Mm-hmm. Phil, I don't denigrate what happened to the USS Liberty in the slightest. You understand that. But for most Americans, what happened to the USS Liberty or in Vietnam was history. This is history. They can be concerned about it, but they're not going to get mad about it. Right. 9/11 has led directly to 60,000 Americans dead and wounded. God knows how many hundreds of thousands of people in other countries that we've killed or wounded or made homeless.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
On the outskirts of the national capital today, black limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carried royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
Conspiracy advocates contend that the world is a web controlled by one spider, the Illuminati, that disseminates a globalist agenda through a network of secret societies. The inner circle of the web is made up of 3 organizations.
The Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral Commission have an interlocking leadership. The head of the World Bank, James Wolfensohn, is a member of this network.
There's something extremely dangerous and alluring about the combination of secrecy and world ambition. What could be more threatening than a group that is in the shadows and trying to dominate your life?
Yale University is 300 years old this year, and were you to visit its campus, you would see that it still has exotic clubhouses, which look like tombs where Yale's legendary secret societies meet. Their prestige and importance have largely evaporated, but the rituals are still a secret. And so when we heard that some enterprising characters had managed to spy on the famous Skull and Bones Society, we couldn't resist. Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
The videotape provides a grainy glimpse into what appear to be the initiation rituals of a secret society that's been around since 1832, whose members have gone on to be leaders of Wall Street and the White House, the Senate and the Supreme Court.
They're sort of trying to scare the initiates, make them, disorient them, frighten them.
New York Observer investigative reporter Ron Rosenbaum accompanied a team of Yale students who shot these pictures 9 days ago. Rosenbaum's curiosity about Skull and Bones was permanently piqued when, as a classmate of George W. Bush, he lived right next to the Tomb, the group's heavily fortified home. From their perch, Rosenbaum and his cohorts taped the Tomb's courtyard. What they captured, they say, was initiates, known as neofights, being forced to kiss a skull, then members performing a mock killing. It may look like your average fraternity nonsense, but Rosenbaum says it's not.
Even though it may seem silly to us, it seems to mean something to them, and you can't argue with the success of Skull and Bones.
True. Famous alums include senators John Kerry and John Chafee, to name 2, cabinet secretaries such as Averell Harriman, and 3 presidents, William Taft, George Bush, and George W. Bush, who's been reluctant to talk about Skull and Bones.
Does it still exist? The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
This is the God that the Templars were supposed to have been worshiping when they came back from the Crusades, and the Pope and Philip le Bel condemned Jacques de Molay, who was the head of the Templars at that point in time, and they scattered to Portugal and Scotland. Of course, resurfaced later as the organization of Freemasonry. But again, this is the God of Freemasonry. Now, how would you like to be the wife of a Mason and suddenly come to realize what your husband is into? And he has taken an oath, hasn't he? He's not going to tell you what he's into.
For over